You mentioned before the break that the new legislation, the One Big Beautiful Bill that reformed the food stamp program, also there's some impacts to states, obviously. And the report that came out for the Alliance for Opportunity and the Center for Practical Federalism touched on some of that. So I want to kind of ask a two-part question. Number one, what should state leaders be aware of that they should know is sort of coming down the pipeline now as this gets implemented, and how should they respond to it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So every state is going to have to pick up more of the administrative tab for this program. And that's just across the board. So states with well-run programs like Utah still are going to have a higher expense. The the value of that incentives is that states really had no incentive before to put any manpower or resources into extra eligibility checks because they would have had to foot that bill more or less. So now they've got to foot the bill anyway. They better administer it properly and efficiently. And then, like we talked about, states that have just been sending out checks left and right without any real confirmation that the people should be receiving them. Now they're going to start wearing more of the cost, and that the additional cost of the program that they have to pay is based on how high the error rate is. So that's going to be a challenge. It's going to be especially a challenge in states that maybe they've had tax cuts recently, or they've got school choice programs they've implemented that amounts to an additional spend out of the state treasury. There's going to be real pressure on them. So I think what to be done, it depends. Unfortunately, it shouldn't, but I think it's probably going to depend in part on what party controls what part of the government. I don't think anybody expects California to suddenly clean up its act. My state of North Carolina, you have a Democrat governor who's he's a fan of big government, and he's not, I would say, the straightest shooter. And then you've got a Republican legislature, so they probably shouldn't expect him to suddenly lead the charge to clean everything up. Although they could be surprised. He was a former Democrat governor who let the whole thing just kind of fall apart on his watch, which is unsurprising given his governance in other areas. So in that case, if you've got a legislature that has to get in the driver's seat, we would suggest, number one, it's time to get your oversight committees in gear, and whatever committees oversee this particular program, they better get in gear and start getting those administrators of the program in front of them and demand a plan, because they've got limited time, and they could get some outside help if they need it. But if it's your legislature, they got to start holding hearings and demand some interchange and a plan. If it's on the governor's side, if you've got a governor who wants to make changes, I mean, that the research you just mentioned from Alliance for Opportunity that we contributed a little bit to, that's just a blueprint for changes that they could begin making right away. The additional challenge, I'll say, is states that want to do the right thing, they're going to face a hurdle, which is just the work requirements. Some states just have really outdated systems. And unfortunately, some states have thrown a lot of money at very expensive consultancies who never quite give you a simple technology, right? The bill never ends, and you get these complicated legacy systems. And I think some states, that's a little ambush they're going to run into when they try to start implementing the work requirements. And if they're not doing that right, that could trigger other penalties. So it's really a time to get the house in order, which, if we did more of these programs closer to home in the first place, probably would be doing them more efficiently anyway. One would hope, because you got more accountability for a governor and a legislature in a state than you do for unelected bureaucrats, in Washington.
Tony, in the report, it kind of lays out that the requirement for this idea of a state match, essentially states chipping in some of their own state funding to help pay for the benefits going to people on the food stamp program, it breaks it out in a tier that's basically anchored to the error rate that state has. And so the way it works, and I'm just kind of summarizing from the report that, again, we'll include in the show notes so folks can go read it if they'd like to. If your state has below a 6% error rate, there's a 0% match. If your error rate is between 6 and 8, it's a 5% match. If your error rate is between 8 and 10, it's a 10% match. And if your error rate is above 10%, it's a 15% match. So it kind of sounds to me like the federal government is essentially saying, okay, states, because it's sort of a graduated scale, you have a clear incentive to not have high error rates. In other words, run your food stamp program well, states, be accurate in your eligibility determinations and in your benefit dispersals so that you don't have to invest a certain percentage of your state funds to pay for the benefits of your folks. And so I kind of give that to you and then ask if you're a governor or a legislature looking at this, what do you think will happen, Tony? Could some states that have really high error rates look at this and say, well, we're just going to have a high error rate. We're going to have a high state match. Oh, well, or is this really going to be an incentive to get states to say, we're going to clean up our act. We're going to be more efficient and effective and accurate. We're going to bring down our error rate.
Well, it's people do respond to incentives, but sometimes in unpredictable ways. So some predictions and some might surprise you. Like another part of that bill that gets neglected is there is a threshold error rate above which you actually get extra time to fix the program. And that's a carve out for the state of Alaska, which has some outlandish error rate. And as a colleague of mine said, they must be sending checks to penguins or something. We have no idea how they could be that far out of whack. But in order to secure the vote, to pass the bill, Alaska got a carve out. Well, it wouldn't surprise me if disastrously run states, like take the state of Illinois, if they have a higher error rate, you have suddenly a built-in incentive to just go ahead and get the error rate even higher and take advantage of that little carve out. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened with a couple of states. But for other states, it's a matter of, as the report indicates, they can do some things relatively expeditiously depending on how well functioning the state agency is. So some are not. They could do some things to really double down on the eligibility checks pretty quickly and at least begin to drive that error rate down. And people who administer the programs will be quick to tell you, hey, the error rate that gets calculated, it's based on samples. It's not always reliable. Yes, that's all true. But you want to start getting the systems right, because the big driver is we're not checking eligibility the way we should to make sure they still live there, to confirm their income. There's some ways you could do that pretty easily. So that, I think, is the states who really want to get this right. That's what you're going to see pretty quickly. But then they're going to have to wrestle with the functioning of the bureaucracy if it's not a well-run program. Like the state of Utah, you're so blessed in many ways. You just have a really well-functioning state government with, from what I can tell, a lot of collegiality among people. They tend to be public servants in Utah, and they want to do the right thing. But some states do not have that level of efficiency and dedication, unfortunately.
I in these conversations, I often find myself sort of touting Utah, and obviously we're not perfect. There's still plenty of areas we can improve, and that's actually one of the things that I love about the mentality in Utah is that the governor, the legislature, our state agencies, there is this spirit of continuous improvement. That even if we're doing really well across a number of metrics, we want to continue to improve and do better. And I think that's why we have done well as a state. And so I give a lot of respect and praise to the folks who make these decisions on the policy side and administer these programs, because there are a lot of good things happening in Utah. And as evidenced in that Alliance for Opportunity report, Utah won't owe a percentage of the state match when it comes to the benefits because of having, again, just a well-run system that administers this stuff well. And so that's maybe to kind of close the loop on that. That's the kind of thing we want to happen at the state level, that states feel like, well, we know it can be done, and so we're going to administer our food stamp program in a way that's accurate. We're going to bring down the error rate so we save some significant state dollars on the benefit match side of things.
Yeah. One other thing, Nick, I'll point out, like one other prediction, I think, is you will see some states get mugged by reality, where it's just going to be on them all of a sudden. The penalty is going to get locked in this year. Your performance rate in 2026 isn't part of what will determine your penalties when you have to start paying them. And I think you will see some states that will just let this opportunity for reform, this 1 year window, just slip right by, because The legislature isn't necessarily paying attention. The state agency is kind of hunkered down. The governor's attention's elsewhere. I think we're going to see some of that, and which is it shouldn't be that way. But my hunch is you will see a little bit of it. So that's one of the reasons we're trying to get the word out, so that the public servants in every state who want to do the right thing, they can see, oh, here's the blueprint. We could actually do this. It's not rocket science.
Thanks for watching that clip of Defending Ideas. For the full conversation, click the link in the description and make sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your shows.